There's something that I like when it comes to Algorand, and even though I'll talk about the idea of maybe $5 when it comes to the price, when it comes to Algorand's native token, and why I'm still thinking about that later on in the video, again, even though nothing I say is financial advice, why is there something that I feel like I do like when it comes to Algorand? And that is the aspect of, I think, arguably sustainability when it comes to Algorand. Now, why do I like this? It's because I think this is really so impressive. Because even if I just take a look at it, kind of statistically speaking, even on Algorand, they even have this, kind of section on the side, and it says that, did you know? But then below that, it says, according to something called CCRI, the Algorand mainnet annualized CO2 footprint is approximately 7 times less than annualized emissions associated with Ethereum proof of stake and 300,000 times less than Bitcoin. So again, when it comes to the emissions, I'm just imagining like, wow, it's so impressive. Again, when compared to, let's say, in the case of Ethereum and Bitcoin, I think Algorand, again, is just very impressive. Now, if I take a look at it as well, when it comes to the sustainable projects built on Algorand, there has been, at least from what I can see right here, 5 highlighted in this section. So it's very impressive, and the way to take a look at it is that when it comes to Algorand, again, I do like that aspect, and I think it could be such a big narrative because I think there has to be a lot more substance in some cases. So I still do like seeing this when it comes to Algorand, and I think it really is going to benefit it in terms of maybe enterprise adoption, because I see a lot of enterprises nowadays, a lot of them are focusing on sustainability. So when it comes to, let's say, adopting a new project, adopting a new technology, let's say, could that factor in? I think in some cases, yes. So when I see something like Algorand having, a pretty good aspect, I would say, when it comes to sustainability, that's something that I do like. Not to mention, if I take a look at something like Algorand, they're even focusing on stuff like this, right? And then this is already considering how Algorand is allegedly the technology of choice for over 2,000 global organizations. Like, let's just think about Algorand in the grand scheme of things. It's already pretty impressive, I think, fundamentally, but they're still continuing to try to improve, and I do like seeing that. Now, in the grand scheme of things, am I seeing a lot of people telling Algorand to improve? No, not really, I guess. I mean, I haven't really seen it in any significant way, but then they're still trying to, so I do like that. It's kind of like putting a lot of effort, even though it's not really being required. So again, I do like seeing that. Not to mention, Algorand, I think, shares a pretty unique aspect in a sense where a lot of these kind of more famous projects in payments and global trade and finance, they usually have an aspect of ISO 20022, and I wouldn't really think about that typically when it comes to something like Algorand, but allegedly that is the case in a sense where Algorand has an aspect of something, again, called ISO 20022. Now, why is this kind of interesting, in my opinion? It's because, again, I'm going to have to repeat this, but still, ISO 20022, that is currently being used by a lot of financial institutions from all around the world for something called inter-organizational data exchange. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting, seeing that when it comes to Algorand. I do like that. I just find that pretty interesting because it's not something I would kind of originally expect. Now, when it comes to Algorand as well, I think something that has kind of piqued my interest as of late is that when I take a look at its ecosystem, I'm starting to see some of these AI projects. Now, I think for quite a while, a lot of people thought, oh, Algorand is not this good, layer one blockchain, and all this type of stuff, but I think maybe some developers might be catching on to Algorand as a, layer one blockchain, because again, seeing some of these AI projects on its ecosystem, I think is a pretty nice sign, I would say, right? Or a pretty good sign, I should say. Because if we take a look at the AI market, for instance, according to Grandview Research, it is expected to be worth nearly $2 trillion in value by 2030. So that's pretty impressive. Again, I mean, I get it, 2030 is still a ways away, but not too long ago, even when altcoins were doing pretty okay before the pullback, AI even then seemed like a very big narrative, and that was not even during an altcoin season in my perspective. So at the end of the day, I do like what I'm seeing when it comes to Algorand overall. And when I take a look at the idea of maybe ALGO at the price of $5, I'm totally aware that it is around a 28x from here. It's not necessarily doing the best, right? But still, at that point, market cap would be around 44 billion considering current circulating supply, which is actually around $60 billion less than even what BNB reached at one point back in 2021. Now granted, BNB reached a new all-time high during this cycle, whereas ALGO did not, right? But I'm saying, even though BNB did very well during this cycle, despite not seeing an altcoin season, Even back in 2021, the market cap was over 100 billion, still around 60 billion more than what ALGO would have at the price of $5, considering current circulating supply. Again, when I take a look at Algorand, it really hasn't kind of lost its position as a famous layer 1 blockchain. Some other layer 1 blockchains out there just kind of lost a lot of its popularity ever since 2021, but Algorand's still holding pretty strong. You know, when it comes to the world of layer 1 blockchains, Algorand is still often considered as one of like the, I would say, top 10, top 15 type of famous ones, arguably. So it's still pretty impressive in my opinion, considering how, again, ALGO isn't necessarily doing the best. Now, when I take a look at it as well, even just back in January, right, and I even talked about this, but it was even announced Enel Group, which is supposedly Europe's largest electricity producer, they partnered with Conio to launch a solar panel tokenization product on Algorand. So that's pretty impressive, and that's, you know, I think even more impressive considering how in 2024, according to the Globe Newswire, the global solar energy systems market was valued at around 250 billion. So again, I do like what I'm seeing when it comes to Algorand overall. It's not going to be the most famous layer 1 blockchain out there of all time, I'm totally aware of that, but it doesn't need to, because personally for me, I don't need ALGO to do the best of all time. If it just did pretty okay, I'm very happy already. This is the way I view it. And if for whatever reason, right, ALGO goes to $5, whether or not I accumulated ALGO at 50 cents, at 25 cents, I don't think it would really matter for me if, let's say, it did reach $5, because even if, let's say, again, I accumulated ALGO at 50 cents and it went to $5, it's still like a 10x from there. I'm not saying it will do that. I'm not telling it to do anything, but this is just my perspective. It's like, for instance, when it comes to Bitcoin, it's over 100 grand as of right now, right? But would it really matter if I got into Bitcoin at 10 grand, 5 grand, or even 1 grand? Now, granted, the one that held at 1 grand until right now, that's a bigger victory than, 10 grand or something, but they're still hypothetically way up, I'm not saying it's going to happen here, but that's just the way to take a look at it. It's like, for instance, let's say I am an athlete and I compete in the Olympics. Maybe I might not win the gold medal or the silver medal, but if I get a bronze medal, I still have a medal, That's the way to take a look at it. Even silver, okay, I get it. It's not the gold medal, but it's still a medal at the end of the day. The idea of $5 when it comes to ALGO, it's still something I'm thinking about. I just don't think the market cap seems that ridiculous, but only time will tell as to when there's going to be an altcoin season, because I can't try to find the perfect moment and try to anticipate an altcoin season. There's no way I could do that. I mean, if I pulled up a price chart and I just start drawing random triangles and stuff like that, like, the market's not going to care about that. Whether I want an altcoin season to happen or not, it will happen if it wants to, and it won't happen if it doesn't want to, right? Like, there's no way I could control that. That's just the analogy that I would have when it comes to it. Now, there's a lot of factors that control an altcoin season happening or not, but those factors are not within my control. However, what is within my control, that is myself, which is why I'm controlling myself just by dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting, and that's pretty much about it. I'm just staying patient. I'm not telling you to do anything, but this is just personally what I'm doing, and I'm still waiting, but I do like the aspects that I do see when it comes to Algorand. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. I want to say thank you for watching. I hope you'll have a nice day, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.